everybody, Terrence Popp here with another episode of Live from the Lair. Alright. So I got a lot of people out there who are flipping out because Russia has crossed the border into the Ukraine, and rightfully so. Now, there's a lot of potential blowback here where it could turn into a World War III type situation. Now, NATO, well, they're basically between a rock and a hard place. They were brought in, the UN and NATO were brought in to existence to keep peace in Europe. And guess what? It's Europe. There's a war again, because there's been war in Europe since, I don't know, before the Roman Empire. I mean, it's insane. Okay, so we got that out of the way. All right, now people are like, well, if it gets really bad, am I going to get drafted? Yes. If you're between the ages of 18 and 25, and if they extend the age range, which they can do if there is an extreme emergency, you can be drafted up until the age of in your 40s. You know, I mean, I've seen some of the plans on how they're going to do that, but, you know, after the age of roughly 28, it gets pretty dicey. But that just proves to the men out there how goddamn expendable you actually are. You are so fucking expendable that your government is like, hey, sign up, and we're going to maybe send you into harm's way where you may or may not be maimed or die. And if you don't go, we'll throw you in prison. Now, I myself am not a fan of that kind of shit. Like, I enlisted in the military because I believed in this country, and I was willing to defend it. Now, unfortunately, our government is shit the bed, and they've been shitting the bed since the 70s. And that national pride has faded, and individuals, you know, willing to step forward and defend this country has faded. Especially with all of the horror stories coming out of the service about incompetent people being promoted up the chain, about you being treated like a goddamn guinea pig, which I find reprehensible. They've basically watered down and removed all of the benefits for going into the military, except for the GI Bill. Now, if they allow people to bankrupt on student loans, then there is no reason for the GI Bill, and that is going to go by the wayside as well.
Have you ever wondered what a world run by leftoids would look like? It would be a living nightmare.
All employees with a criminal record are now entered into the lottery. The winners are allowed the honor of sacrificing their lives to decrease CO2 emissions.
People are okay with that?
But it turns out that the best way to stave off Marxism is to mock it relentlessly and creatively with movies like Tag Conspiracy.
And now, with only a 15 to 20% discharge error rate.
Whistleblower Brett Mauser is back with his most hilarious and cinematic effort to date, and you can support free speech films like this by going to notsosane.com.
Now let's do this!
Rent or buy a copy today. A link is in the Meat Gazer box.
Okay, now, I never thought I would say this, but with the way the command structure is in the United States now, all the way to the very, very top, they don't give a fuck about you. They only care about their goddamn agenda and the propaganda. Alright? Now, I've explained this before in nauseam. War is not a sport. Like, a sport is something people engage in for recreation, and there is a certain risk level in sport, but not one that on a regular basis sees people participating in that sport killed and maimed. Well, I take that back. Maybe high-speed boat racing is on par, but what do I know? It's fucking war, all right? When you go to war, you are there to enforce the last 300 meters of this country's foreign policy. And it will be enforced with the weapons that you are issued. Okay? Now, typically, there will be other people on the other side armed with different weapons. And their job is to kill you. Second place in combat is a hospital bed. Third place is a grave. And death doesn't care if you're a man or you're a woman, if you're 100 pounds, if you're 500 fucking pounds. Okay, it doesn't matter if you believe in it. At the end of the day, war is incredibly dangerous. And for the most part, men were the people who basically were forced to do it. Now, there's some talk they're going to draft women, and then it was shot down in the courts. Listen, feminism has won. I believe women from the age of 18 to 25 should suffer the same risks as men, which is the draft. All right? And they, too, should get a taste of expendability to the depth that we drink of it every day. All right. In fact, we are so goddamn expendable that tens of thousands of soldiers were slain in different campaigns overseas, and their bodies were buried in cemeteries over there. So they can draft you, train you, equip you, send you over the ocean to do their bidding, and then you die. Your usefulness is gone, and you're nothing but a dandelion that they plant in some field somewhere. That's reprehensible. The whole thing just got me disgusted. Now, a lot of people are like, well, what does the draft entail? Well, I'm going to go through that for you right now. Let me just make some adjustments. So how the U.S. draft works. All right. So when you reach the age of, I believe, 18, you can sign up as late as 16. I think it revolves around when you finish high school. But typically 18 years old, you're required to enroll in Selective Service, which is basically for the draft. All right. And if you are drafted, you have no say in the branch you go to, and you have no say over the job you're going to get, for the most part. Okay. So you show up, and you're batch 0114, and they need infantry guys because it's a meat grinder out there. Guess what? They don't care if you're 5'5" or 6'5". Okay, they're gonna push you through to the standard that the highest standard they could possibly attain with the people they have, and they're gonna find yourself in combat. All right, and that's just the way it is. And you can say whatever you want. I got it, but that's where you're going. You don't want that. All right, so if it looks like they're gonna put a draft in place, and you're in draft age, it is my professional opinion that you pick your poison, because when they pick it for you, the options get incredibly dreary. Okay, so you start it. It's like 18 to 25. You got to be there. Now, I mentioned earlier that they can draft later than 25, but it gets pretty dicey after that, because as men get older, they have more value attached to their name, and they have the ability to pitch a more effective bitch. But if it's really bad, it's just the way it is. Okay, primary purpose is to provide military with additional manpower in the event that volunteer forces are not sufficient to handle a war or other national emergency. In other words, agencies in charge of overseeing the draft, called Conscription, whenever it is reinstated, is secondarily to impose to maintain an alternate draft time service program for conscientious objectors. All right. Now, if it's bad enough, they will not deal with conscientious objectors. All right. If it's bad enough, you're gonna get your draft notice. You're gonna show up. If you say I'm a conscientious objector, they're gonna throw you in jail. If you don't show up, they're gonna throw you in jail. You know, that's what men have to face. Women don't have to face that at all. Okay, here it is. Ages 18 to 25, under current law, women cannot be drafted, as the Department of Defense does not employ them in ground combat. Well, they do now. So this needs to change. Okay, now here are the individuals, men who are excluded from the draft. Men who are actively serving in the military. You have your job, you're doing your deal. They're not going to f*** with you. All right, men who are attending military service academy or selected university military officer procurement programs. So basically, if you're in the pipe to go in the military, they're not going to interfere. They're going to let it run its course. Foreign citizens in the United States on valid student visa or diplomatic visas. Certain foreign agricultural workers. Men who are in the hospital for psychiatric institution. Handicapped men who cannot function in public, and inmates. And in the past, the whole inmate thing went out the window, and they have drafted inmates, and that's just the way it is. Now, typically, they want you to register within 30 days of turning 18, but, they turned a blind eye to it. As long as you do it before 21, and you just say you f***ed up, it's not a big deal. Usually they'll give you a pass and just say, hey, you had to do this at 18, and you play it. Well, I didn't know, I was young and stupid. And then they'll just yell at you. It's not a big deal. Now, this is what they could do to you if you don't register or you don't show up if you are drafted. You can be prosecuted as a potential draftee who does not register with Selective Service. If convicted, a man can face up to 5 years in jail. Anything more than a year requires a felony conviction. So not registering or dipping out of the draft is a felony. And they can fine you up to $250,000. Now, they basically say they're unlikely to take such extreme actions, but they can if they want to. Okay, now typically what they do is they withhold government benefits from potential draftees in violation. This includes federal financial aid, not going to get it. Okay, federal job training or federal jobs, no, not happening. Okay, and all eligible aliens must register before gaining a U.S. citizenship. Okay, now, like I said before, they will still accept your selective service as long as you're under the age of 26. Yeah, just think on that for a minute. These strong, independent women are dipping out of the draft, while men have been forced to do it under penalty of law. That's f***ed up. That's bullshit. And now we're going to talk into some of the physical aspects here of Gen Z and the draft and how it's going to be just a huge cluster. All right, so this article is here's why today's Gen Z are at risk of boot camp injuries. All right, now I've known about this for years, and I refer to it as an Xbox body. It's referred to here as the Nintendo generation. All right, well, soldier skeleton is not toughened by activity prior to arrival. So some of them break more easily, said Army Major, I'm not going to say his name. Yeah, so they're basically going on, and they're seeing the wide range of injuries from acute fractures, that's like broken pelvises and hips, and falls. Listen, if you're an 18-year-old man and you grew up with an active childhood, You have no idea how superhuman you are until you actually face the meat grinder. Okay? I've done it. Why I haven't shattered or broken major bones in my body, I have no idea. Because I have literally put this meat suit through hell from the ages of 17 to roughly 48. So I've seen it. These injuries are from tears in the ACL to muscle strains, stress fractures, with overwhelming majority of injuries related to overuse. So basically, we have a whole generation of kids who stare at screens, don't take gym, don't work out, have everything handed to them, have no idea how the real world works, can't handle pain, are physically weak, have no endurance, don't know how to nourish themselves, and the list goes on and fucking on. All right, mental weakness, spiritual weakness, no character. I mean, god damn, it's just fucked up when you just talk about it like this. There's a 1/3 of youths in the United States are too obese to get in to the service. Too fat. Okay, listen, I'm not fat shaming you. I'm reality shaming you here. Okay, when you are a fat body, you are slow. If you are slow, you are more apt to get fired upon. That's just how it works. They see you, they shoot at you. They can use indirect fire, missiles, direct fire weapons, what have you. You need to be able to move to point A to point B fast. Check out my comedy video, Rules of a Gunfight. So, if you are, say, 14, 15 years old and is one of your life dreams to go into the military, you need to put the screens down, join the sport, one that requires running of some type. I would say football. Basketball works. Hockey's okay. Cross-country running, track and field. Get out of the fucking house. It will only assist you later in life. Because if you don't do that, you're going to be 30 years old. Your extended warranty is going to be collapsed. And you're going to be chasing, your health for the rest of your life. All right, here's another one. Nearly 1 in 4 students fail military entrance exam. All right. The ASVAB is not that difficult. All right. The ASVAB is designed to determine, 1, your IQ and your mental abilities or shortcomings. All right. Now, I took the ASVAB in the middle of my 10th grade year in high school, and I blew it out of the water. All right. The main score that they use for the ASVAB is the GT score, and you need to score a 110 to qualify for any job in the Army. Okay. Now, typically, if you want to go special operations, you have to have a minimum of a 110 GT score in the ASVAB. My first shot at the ASVAB in the 10th grade, 117. I took it again my first year of college, scored a 121. I'm not uber smart for the most part. I do have higher level intelligence. At least I did before I got wounded. But it is important, okay? So, again, if you're 14, 15 years old and you're looking at trying to get in the military, learn at a minimum college level algebra. You're not going to really use anything more than that in the ASVAB. Focus on story problems. Focus on grammar, which I sucked at. I didn't do well on that portion, but I crushed everything else. They want a smart person. Okay, and the standards for getting into the military have grown harder and harder and harder throughout the years. That, in my opinion, they're cutting their own throat. Because when I came in, it was go to war or go to jail. And a lot of people said, F it, I'll go in the army. And that's what happened. So this basically throws a huge negative shadow upon the education system that we have. And a lot of that blame could be placed upon single mothers as well. This one just goes over Gen Z and mental health issues. Okay, and for some reason, Gen Z is some mentally weak individuals. I mean, they are experiencing more stress and anxiety over just the standard pressures of work and life. All right, here we go. Look at this shit. Suicide rates are up among Gen Z. You know, suicide attempts, drug abuse, mental health problems, self-harm. And I mean, god damn, this is just insane. Look at this. Anxiety. Wow. We got kids in 8th grade going through high school. Listen, lifing sucks. All right? It always has and it always will. It's just lifing, adulting is hard. And I always tell the young people I come across, don't be in a hurry to grow up, because once you get here, you can't go back, and it's no fun, and it really does suck. Okay, and we have the Gen Zs who were raised either in daycare or by single mothers that are just way overprotective, and the youth of today are not developing the mental fortitude and the physical fortitude to operate in high-stress environments, which the military is. Let me tell you, when you get that order for a movement to contact, and that's probably one of the worst ones you can get, and that just means you're all going to get in formation and move in a direction where you anticipate running into enemy forces and having direct action take place. That's the two-way rifle range. That's incredibly stressful. And we have a generation of kids who stress out over having to eat pizza or a hot dog at lunch, who freak out over a, microaggression, which don't exist. Okay, they're just mentally fucking weak. So let me get this straight. We are now in possession of a country with a whole generation of individuals who are mentally weak, suffer from mental illness, who have physically weakened themselves from inactivity, okay, and no longer have the desire to support this country. Are they going to... Listen, if they think they're going to be able to draft the youth of today, they're out of their fucking mind. Okay, if you can do it, but it's going to require getting heavy-handed on some of these kids. And quite frankly, I don't think they can take it. That's just my take. All right, that is my rundown on the draft and why this country is so ill-prepared for it. We have a whole generation of weaklings, mentally and physically. We have a system that is basically going to discriminate actively against just the males of the population when women are allowed to serve in combat now as well. Okay. That is a big, huge fucking no And it is proven by this administration that you can be drafted and literally you are nothing but a walking, talking guinea pig. And that needs to stop. People go in the military because they love their country. They don't go in there to be a goddamn guinea pig.